are at least 10,000 cults in the United States. We're not just talking about a hippie commune or some UFO religion. Cults have actually been a part of life here for 4 centuries. Why is America such a breeding ground for cults? The Manson family, Jonestown, Heaven's Gate.
I think of cult leaders as sitting on a spectrum right in the middle between domestic abusers and dictators.
Ceasefire, their ceasefire, they want to...
In a nation that takes pride in independence, Americans are prone to cults, often through a yearning for heroes.
During times of crisis, we see people desiring a strong man, someone to come and solve our problems and rid the world of enemies.
Some cult leaders may even be true believers, at least for a while, until it becomes apparent to at least some that it's all a con game.
Cults are first and foremost businesses. I don't say they make money, I say they take money.
Money, sex, power. It's a dynamic that often ends in violence.
These people killed 4 federal officials in the line of duty. David Koresh was dangerous, irrational, and probably insane.
Charismatic leaders use everything from UFOs to astrology to Christian mysticism to manipulate followers. But the most dangerous cult leader may be right in front of you.
I consider social media algorithms to be the most successful cult leaders of all time because they've divided us. They do this by feeding us extreme information, sending us down rabbit holes. People get radicalized and indoctrinated sitting upstairs in their bedroom without their family even knowing.
Division, control. Author Jane Borden says it's not just the playbook of modern charismatic cult leaders, it starts here, with the arrival of the Mayflower.
The Puritans were a high-control doomsday group. They believed doomsday was imminent. They controlled residents' information intake, behavior, belief systems. There was high pressure to conform. They were a culture of punishment.
Borden says the Puritans' stories are ingrained in ours. From comic books to westerns, all flow from themes of crime and punishment found in something the Puritans are obsessed with, the Book of Revelation.
And that can be a very attractive narrative for people in crisis, people experiencing grievance, whether real or imagined.
Elizabeth Clare Prophet has little trouble attracting followers in the mid-1970s and 80s, telling people they are immersed in negative karma.
And when it got to a certain point and built, there would be a tipping point when God would have to send some kind of catastrophe to reset the world.
Her movement is called the Church Universal and Triumphant. At its peak, it includes 50,000 followers. What's causing all this? Prophet preaches rock stars are a cult of Satan. Everyone from Michael Jackson to Bruce Springsteen, Madonna to Tina Turner.
They believed that they had been taken over by dark angels, or they just were dark angels, and that if the general public gave themselves over to the syncopated rhythm of this music, then they could also be taken over by these angels. They didn't always know who they were talking about, so sometimes they would say Cyndi Lauper and David Bowie, which I find honestly charming. But they would call for these people to be bound because they believed they were evil spirits.
The movement moves to a compound in Montana with underground shelters. Was this group dangerous? And what was the end?
They were busted trying to buy a bunch of weapons.
For what reason?
The idea is that following this cataclysm they saw coming, they thought there would be total societal breakdown and there would be roving self-made militias, and they wanted to defend themselves against it.
In March of 1990, Prophet declares the apocalypse is coming. The date comes and goes.
It was a failure of prophecy, and most groups experience fallout after a failure of prophecy.
So what is driving her? Is she just a narcissist? Is she a con woman? Is there something in her past that's impacted her psychologically?
All three.
Cult leaders use their power of persuasion to tap into the American psyche.
Americans are rebels. We are anti-elitist. This idea that the kind of brainiacs out in the world are going to prey on us, but we're not going to take it. We can fight back. That's a very American ideal.
She says since the evolution of rich, educated, industrialized democratic nations in the West, people have become more individualistic, and communities are built on trust.
If you have a trust-based economy, scam artists are going to exist. For the same reason that if you have freedom of religion, you're going to have false gurus.
False gurus like Jim Jones. His People's Temple is founded in Indianapolis in 1955. He orchestrates a mass murder-suicide that leads to the deaths of more than 900 people of the People's Temple at the Commune in Jonestown, Guyana in November 1978. The Manson family is a commune of as many as 100 followers in California in the late 1960s and 70s. Most are women and heavy drug users. The group murders at least 9 people, including actress Sharon Tate. While he doesn't commit murder himself, Manson is convicted of conspiracy to commit murder in 1971. He dies in 2017. 39 members of the Heaven's Gate cults near San Diego commit a ritual suicide in March 1997 during the closest approach of the Hale-Bopp comet. Marshall Applewhite teaches a mix of Christian mysticism and UFO religion. All are false gurus, like Elizabeth Clare Prophet.
Actual harm is done to the members, typically financial and sexual exploitation.
In the 1970s, she uses rock music and other perceived social problems to paint a picture of crisis. Today, the crisis might be economics or politics.
Social revolution, social upheaval.
This makes Americans susceptible to a slick sales pitch the victims never see coming. The most vulnerable? People in transition. Perhaps they're recently divorced or moved to a new city. College campuses are prime targets.
So cults pull people in. First of all, love bombing is a classic technique. That's where, it's your first few meetings and everyone's swarming you to say how great you are and what a natural fit you are and how smart you are and the guru really likes you, you must be special.
The mission? To change the world. Of course, only you and other followers have the power to make it happen through the support of the charismatic leader.
Of course, that's almost always a lie. Typically, the leader is just looking to line his own pockets.
But as their power expands, it corrupts, which may lead to financial embezzlement, sexual exploitation, or even death. There is no one to say no.
What we see is a violence amplification loop, where the leader is becoming more paranoid about outside forces coming to get them.
They seem to all end in violence. Is that true?
Well, I think it's not a coincidence that the Salem witch trials occurred toward the end of the Puritan experiment. This kind of violence that I discussed earlier is always the end of a cult. Most cults don't reach that point. They kind of fizzle before they get there.
Borden interviewed Prophet's children who escaped the cult. How do they escape? Their mother sends them to school in the outside world, where their education reveals the world isn't as evil as their own mother leads them to believe. Jane Borden's book is Cults Like Us: Why Doomsday Thinking Drives America.